Hi, thanks for joining me today. We are going to be doing a comparison on some of the flutes from my collection, and this is going to be looking at my mid B flat flutes. These are also known as A sharp by some manufacturer, some flute makers, or some players. Four different flutes, four different flute makers. The first one, we're starting with the smallest bore diameter, and they're all pretty close to the same, but this is the smallest. This is right at 3/4 of an inch in diameter. This is from Tree of Life Designs, and Ed Dougherty is the flute maker. I will include all of the information down in the description below this video if you want to look them up. This flute is made from black walnut. He uses a one-piece solid bore construction. So he bores the hole or the bore of the flute. He bores that out of one solid piece of wood. He has machined down and inset a separate nest piece here, which also looks like black walnut. Has a stylized bird with a chimney, and the sides of the bird are black walnut. The center is a flaming box elder, and these orange bands are pipestone. A nipple style mouthpiece that is same material as the flute body. A beautiful little abalone cabochon with burned little starburst pattern around that. No tuning holes. This is cut and trimmed to reach the fundamental note, the lowest note. And here's the voice. Beautiful, clear, clean tones, very even throughout the whole range, I think. Tree of Life Designs, flute maker is Ed Dougherty. The next flute, by George Flutes, is the entity behind this flute, and the flute maker's name is George Dyson Jr. This flute is a two-piece routed construction, but it started as one piece. Slices the flute blank, opens it up, routes the bore and the slow air chamber, glues it back together, and the grain matches pretty well when you do it that way. Very slightly larger than 3/4 of an inch, just barely, and it's probably from sanding and smoothing the bore a little bit more. So two-piece construction. The mouthpiece is a tenoned mouthpiece that's put in, and I believe Ed Dougherty uses the same type of construction. This one has a turquoise band inlaid at that joint, and the mouthpiece and the simple fetish block is made from Osage Orange. Again, the rest of the flute is Eastern Red Aromatic Cedar with some beautiful grain patterns, kind of twisting and everything in here. Really pretty grain pattern on this flute. It's one of the things that attracted me to this. And It has a very, very short chimney, which is just the opposite of the tree of life. The wings slope this way, starting from nothing, and then the wings grow as they get down to the nest, which is carved out of the top of the flute, but the whole nest is a slightly raised design. So a little bit higher than where the finger holes are. It's a raised design. The rest of the flute body has been tapered down to a smaller diameter here than up here. So here's the voice of the by George flute. This one does struggle with the highest note there that many flutes can play. This one struggles a little bit with that. Again, great sounding flute. It does struggle a little bit with that one highest note, so this isn't the flute that I grab most of the time because I use that note in my playing a lot. Almost every time I grab a flute, that note is incorporated into my playing. It's just what I do. The next flute. This has almost identical dimension on the bore. It might be like a 32nds of an inch larger than 3/4 inch bore. This flute is a Falcon flute made by Dina Ross. Again, this is a two-piece design, and it again looks like this started out as one solid piece, split, opened up, routed, and then glued back together to get the bore put in. Grain matches up very nicely, but just barely see the joint. Same type of precision with by George Flutes as here. The voice is different, and this flute is made out of flamed maple, walnut for the mouthpiece and the top of the stylized bird block. No chimney, a flat end here, and then it goes flat and then curves away from the true sound hole a little bit. The base of the block is cherrywood. Dana loves to use cherry for the base of his blocks. I think he feels that is the best material for a nice smooth top area of the flue, and doesn't seem, I don't think I've ever had a flute of his that has had a wet out problem. None of these have given me wet out problems. Tuning holes down at the foot end to dial in the lowest fundamental note, and this has a ring up here that looks to be some kind of like a cocobolo, something like that. It's a darker wood. I don't think it's walnut. I think it's something, it seems to have a little bit more intense grain than walnut does. Here's the voice of the Dina Ross Falcon flute. clean, clear, bright, crisp notes, a very articulate flute. This reacts just beautifully to any kind of player input, which I think all of these have so far. And the last flute is one that I made. It's a Brent Adams custom flute, and it's a short little flute. This flute has an oval bore. It's 3/4 of an inch wide, about 7/8 of an inch tall. Some flute makers ovalize this way. I was ovalizing this way at one point in my flute making. This is made from Applewood with a cherry, kind of a Kokopelli headdress design block is what I came up with for this. My signature mouthpiece look, and I used to angle the ends of the foot of my custom flutes this way. Some people angled them this way. I angled it this way, as does Laughing Crow, for example. But I also incorporated a natural end because my apple tree was rotting and I had to get rid of it. And this is an apple tree that was in my backyard. My children grew up playing and climbing in this apple tree. And I joined them at times. It was a fun tree. It was a pretty good sized tree, but it got old and started to rot in areas that were originally cut for wire clearance and things like that. And I had to take it out because it was getting dangerous. So I saved some wood, and this is the first flute that I made from it, and I wanted to use that part that was rotting, and I had to use some wood hardener here. Anyway, apple is a hardwood, as is the maple or the walnut. It's probably closer to the maple. Maple's a little harder than walnut is. And here's the voice on this flute. This flute means a lot to me because of the wood. I use a two-piece bore construction, by the way, and route it. This was one piece of wood. I split it, opened, routed the bore, glued it back together, routed and have a slow air chamber up here also. This is the only flute that I recorded a song on this flute. It's the only flute that I've been able to play a part of that song on. The other flutes just don't quite do it. And let me think here. That slide that I do on that highest note, none of the other flutes that I have or have tried, even in other keys, will not do that. I don't know what it is about this flute. The other flutes tend to squeak or just don't, you can't hear that slide. It breaks to the next note faster or something. So this flute I have to grab if I want to play that song, which is one that I usually play on stage. So Brent Adams flute. Quite a bit shorter than any of the other ones, mainly because if you compare mine to the other one that doesn't have tuning holes. Mine has a smaller section up here, up in the front, the breath hole into the slow air chamber. My slow air chamber is shorter than any of these other flutes, I'm sure. Mine has a little bit more breath pressure, and I'm thinking that might have something to do with how I can make that slide happen. I don't know. But I've tried it on other flutes that I make, and that's the only one that seems to work well for that song. So let me know in the comments, which flute did you like the sound of better? Could you tell any real tonal difference? And it'll be interesting to hear how the camera picks that up. I will leave information from all the makers down in the description area below this video. But let me know your comments. What do you think of the flutes? What do you think of the key? Do you like that B flat key? Slightly higher in pitch than a regular A flute. B flat or B flat or A sharp. It's the same note. Is that something that interests you at all? I know some people feel that B flat makes a good blues key. I can play blues with any flute. It doesn't matter what the key is. You just have to have somebody that will play in that key with you. And B flat is one of my favorite keys. It's one that I gravitate toward a little bit. That and, well, I use them all. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe. Click the little bell over there also so that you will be aware when I post a new video. It could be a comparison like this. It might be a flute review. Could be one of my music videos where I might be playing a solo. I might be playing multiple instruments. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.